Long before the first scriptures were etched into stone, and before human hands raised temples toward the heavens, there was a deeper kind of knowing, one that did not arrive through words, but through stillness. It moved silently through the breath between thoughts. It shimmered in the night sky, written not in ink, but in stars. This wisdom did not need to be spoken to be understood. It pulsed through the fabric of existence itself, eternal, undeniable. It was not religion. It was law, sacred, invisible, unchanging. And at its heart stood 7 principles: mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. These were not philosophies. They were not theories. They were the unseen scaffolding behind everything that is. The blueprint of both the cosmos and the soul. These 7 hermetic principles, whispered through ancient Egypt and hidden in the folds of mystery schools, offer a map, not to a distant heaven, but to the structure of reality itself. They show us that behind every experience, every phenomenon, every event in this world, there is order. That thought precedes matter. That spirit gives birth to form. That what is above reflects what is below, and what is within is mirrored without. And yet for most, these truths feel like relics, buried, distant, mystical fragments of a forgotten world. But what if they are closer than we think? What if they never left? What if their resonance can still be heard, quietly, powerfully, in the voice of one of history's most revered teachers? What if Jesus of Nazareth, the healer, the prophet, the man who walked among lepers and kings alike, was not just a redeemer of human souls, but a revealer of cosmic law? What if his teachings were not simply moral encouragements, but metaphysical keys? What if his words, "The kingdom of God is within you. As you believe, so it shall be. The last shall be first," were not just spiritual metaphors, but reflections of a deeper architecture that governs all things? This is not a comparison between 2 belief systems. It is a rediscovery of a singular truth spoken in different languages. It is the uncovering of a golden thread that winds through the Hermetic scrolls and the teachings of Christ. 2 sacred traditions not in conflict, but in correspondence. This is not about merging religions or rewriting scripture. It's about remembering something ancient that lives beneath them both. The laws of the universe, the structure of spirit, the architecture of divine intelligence, all echo through the parables of Jesus just as they do through the tablets of Hermes. And if you feel it, even faintly, you already know there is more than you were taught, more than tradition could contain, more than doctrine could articulate. Something calls you beyond the surface, beyond inherited belief, beyond rigid dogma. This is a journey for those who sense that truth is not locked within any single tradition, but flows like water beneath them all, a living current, patient and eternal, waiting to be remembered. So if you're ready, leave behind what you've merely inherited. Silence the noise of external voices and turn inward, not for rebellion, but for remembrance. What is hidden is beginning to rise. The scroll is unfolding. The stars are shifting position. And what was once sealed in mystery is now whispering again, not to your mind alone, but to the deepest knowing within your soul. Let the journey begin. Everything begins in thought, not just the things we imagine, but the things we call real. Before anything takes form, before it breathes or moves or breaks the surface of visibility, it exists in the mind. Not the personal mind, but the mind, infinite, conscious, creative. This is the first Hermetic principle, mentalism. It tells us that the universe is not a machine made of blind particles, but a living thought, not chaos, not accident, intelligence, awareness, will. The all is mind. What we call reality, the stars, the oceans, our bodies, our histories, is not substance first. It is consciousness first. The material world is not the cause, it is the effect. What is seen emerges from what is unseen, like a shadow cast by something more real than form itself. This principle does not merely say that thought influences the world. It says the world is thought, shaped by intention and sustained by awareness. And once you grasp this, not as belief, but as realization, everything begins to change. Suddenly, you are not just a bystander in the unfolding of life. You are a participant in the dream of the cosmos, and Jesus knew this truth, not in theory, but in embodiment. He lived and taught this law in every act, every miracle, every word that moved mountains. As you believe, so it shall be unto you. That is not moral encouragement. That is metaphysical instruction. It is the formula of mentalism spoken in a language the heart can hear. He taught that faith was not a feeling. It was causality. That belief wasn't weak hope. It was the engine of reality. His power was not external. It was inward alignment. When he healed, he didn't conjure magic. He aligned thought with divine intention. Your faith has made you whole. The miracle didn't begin in his hands. It began in the mind of the one who believed. Time and again, Jesus withdrew into silence, into stillness, into solitude. Not to escape the world, but to engage it from its source. He understood that transformation does not come from effort alone, but from consciousness, that the world outside is an echo of the world within. Hermeticism teaches the same. All creation flows from mind. The first motion is not physical, it is mental. And when thought is harmonized with higher will, it becomes a force capable of reshaping the very structure of matter. But this law does not belong only to prophets and mystics. It belongs to you. You too are made in the image of mind. Your thoughts are not small. They are vibrations. They carry frequencies. They create resonance. When you think in fear, you distort the field. When you align with truth, you bring order. The world you inhabit, your relationships, your health, your direction, they are all reflections of mental energy, projected outward through time and space. You are never just experiencing reality. You are co-writing it, moment by moment. Jesus didn't demonstrate this law to prove what he could do. He revealed what you are capable of, that you are not separate from the creative intelligence of the universe, that your mind is not merely personal, but plugged into something vast and divine. That when you learn to think with awareness, with faith, with clarity, you begin to step into your rightful role, a conscious co-creator of your life and your world. So ask yourself, honestly and gently, what is the shape of your inner world? What do you dwell on in silence? What emotional tones do your thoughts carry? Fear or faith? Scarcity or abundance? Despair or possibility? Because what lives in your mind lives in your future. And as the first principle tells us, the outer world will not shift until the inner world does. The universe is mind. You are part of that mind. And what you choose to think, you choose to build. This is the key Jesus held quietly in plain sight. This is the truth Hermes carved into sacred stone. And now it is being handed to you. There is a sacred mirror that runs through all creation, not made of glass, but of essence. What happens above echoes below. What moves within is reflected without. This is not poetry. It is law. The second Hermetic principle, correspondence, tells us that every level of reality is connected, harmonized, reflective. The heavens are not somewhere else. They are encoded into the very structure of your being. The vastness of stars is mirrored in the atoms of your flesh. The divine is not distant. It is present in the smallest things, in breath, in thought, in heartbeat. As above, so below. As within, so without. This principle reveals a truth so profound it can dissolve the illusion of separation. It tells us that the inner and the outer are not two different realms, but two expressions of the same force, unfolding in concert. The macrocosm, the great universe beyond comprehension, speaks in synchrony with the microcosm, the world within you. What happens in the soul radiates into the world. What you hold in thought becomes a blueprint for the reality around you. There is no boundary between spirit and matter, only reflection. And Jesus knew this, not by study, but by union. When he taught his disciples to pray, he said, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Not a metaphor, a direct invocation of correspondence. He was saying, let the divine order of the higher realm be manifested in the material one. Let what is above, perfect, whole, eternal, be reflected below. Earth is not to be escaped. It is to be transfigured, and the transformation begins not in society, but in the self. When he declared, "The kingdom of God is within you," he wasn't speaking symbolically. He was speaking metaphysically. He was pointing to the divine blueprint already alive in the human soul, the mirror of heaven, waiting to be recognized. The laws that govern the stars also shape your inner world. When you align with them, heaven begins to unfold not after death, but in life. You don't have to ascend. You have to awaken. You have to remember the pattern within. And how did Jesus live this law? Watch him. When the storm raged around him, he stood and spoke, "Peace, be still," and the chaos obeyed. Why? Because he had already stilled the storm inside. His inner world was not reacting, it was governing. When he healed, he didn't manipulate the body. He realigned it with wholeness, calling forth the divine pattern already present beneath the distortion. He didn't impose order, he revealed it. Through his presence, the higher law was made visible in the lower world. Correspondence is not philosophy, it is function. You are not separate from the universe. You are its echo, its reflection, its local expression. What you believe radiates. What you fear attracts. What you embody. You see, the world is not just a place you walk through. It is a mirror held up to your inner state. If you wish to change the outer, begin with the inner. Still, the mind and the world around you will soften. Speak love, and it will return. Align with heaven, and the earth will follow. Jesus walked between realms, not because he escaped one, but because he united them. He knew that the separation we feel is the greatest illusion of all, and he called us not just to follow him, but to see as he saw, to recognize the mirror, to walk with awareness of the link between thought and matter, between spirit and flesh, between God and you. So ask yourself, what does your world reflect? What patterns play out around you? What emotional tones echo in your relationships, your work, your days? Are you projecting fear and calling it fate? Or are you embodying the divine and calling it grace? As above, so below. As within, so without. Jesus did not just speak this law, he embodied it. Now, so can you. At the heart of all existence, beneath form and matter, beyond language and light, there is movement. Nothing is still. Not the galaxies spinning in silent choreography. Not the atoms within your hand. Not your thoughts. Not your breath. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. This is the third Hermetic principle, vibration, and it tells us that behind everything that appears solid, everything we think is fixed, there is energy, frequency, rhythm. To exist is to vibrate. This is not a poetic idea. It is the pulse of reality. From the trembling of subatomic particles to the rhythm of the human heart, life expresses itself through motion. Stillness is an illusion. What we call stability is only vibration in balance. You are not made of things. You are made of waves, of patterns, of frequency. This law reveals a secret. Reality is music, and every thought, emotion, and intention is a note added to the great song of creation. Jesus knew this law, not by science, but by resonance. His words did not shake the world because they were loud. They shook the world because they were aligned. He spoke not from ego, but from source, not from fear, but from truth. And truth carries its own vibration, pure, powerful, unshakable. When he stood in the boat as the storm howled and the waves crashed, he did not fight the chaos. He simply spoke, "Peace, be still," and nature obeyed. The winds quieted, the sea fell silent, not because he exerted control, but because he tuned into a higher frequency. Chaos bowed before coherence. When Jesus healed, he often used no more than a phrase: "Be clean, receive your sight, rise and walk," and the impossible unfolded. Why? Because his voice was not empty sound. It was vibration saturated with divine alignment. His frequency was undistorted. And when a higher vibration meets a lower one, the lower must change or break. Even when standing before death itself at the tomb of Lazarus, he didn't plead. He didn't panic. He spoke into the void with authority. "Lazarus, come forth." And vibration tore the veil between life and death. This principle is not only about Jesus, it is about you. Because the law of vibration moves through all things, including your mind, your body, your voice. Every thought you entertain sends out a frequency. Fear vibrates low, anger pulls down, resentment contracts your field. But love elevates, gratitude expands, faith lifts. You do not just think, you resonate. And the universe, ever responsive, listens not to your words alone, but to the vibration beneath them. So the question is not just what do you say? The question is, what tone lives in your being? What are you harmonizing with? Scarcity or abundance? Doubt or truth? The universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. And what you are is shaped by what you hold in vibration. Jesus didn't vibrate with fear. He vibrated with love, the highest frequency in existence. He moved through hatred and was not touched by it. He walked through suffering and radiated peace. His silence carried power. His presence shifted the atmosphere, not because he tried, but because he was. He lived the truth that vibration is creation. You too can tune your inner instrument, not through force, but through awareness, through choosing what you focus on, what you feel, what you feed with attention. You are an energy field in constant motion, broadcasting into the world and shaping it in return. This principle, like all the others, is not a secret kept for mystics. It is a law alive in every breath. Everything vibrates, everything moves. And when your vibration aligns with truth, with compassion, with joy, with forgiveness, you don't just feel better. You become magnetic. You become medicine. You become a living instrument of divine resonance. Jesus did not use this law to impress. He used it to restore, to reveal, to realign. And now, it waits in you, humming beneath your words, waiting for you to choose the frequency you will carry into the world. This world is built in twos, light and dark, birth and death, joy and sorrow, gain and loss. At every turn, we are surrounded by pairs, seemingly opposite, often in tension, always in motion. But this is not conflict, it is design. The fourth Hermetic principle, polarity, teaches us that opposites are not enemies, but reflections of the same energy expressed in different degrees. Hot and cold are both temperature. Love and hate, though wildly different in impact, are both forms of passion. Life and death are not rivals. They are partners in becoming. Polarity reveals that everything is dual, but nothing is truly divided. Every truth carries its shadow. Every peak has a valley. What we often call contradiction is simply perspective. When we shift how we look, what was once opposed reveals its unity. This law asks us not to choose sides, but to see both. Not to reject the dark, but to understand its place. Not to flee sorrow, but to recognize it as part of joy's full expression. Everything has its pair, and it is in the tension between them that transformation takes root. Jesus knew this law, and he taught it in ways that turned the world upside down, or rather, right side up. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. He who loses his life shall find it. Blessed are those who mourn. These were not comforting contradictions. They were truths spoken from a higher plane. Jesus wasn't reversing reality. He was revealing it, showing that the world we perceive is only half of what is real, and that divine understanding lives in the balance between what we try to separate. Look at the cross, the central symbol of his life, a place of suffering that became the doorway to resurrection, a moment of agony that opened eternity. The greatest pain led to the greatest light. That is polarity in motion. Jesus didn't avoid death. He entered it, walked through it, and emerged carrying something transformed. He lived the law that says you cannot rise unless you have fallen, and you cannot truly see until you have been blind. He understood that polarity isn't a flaw in the system, it is the system. And in your own life, this law is always at work. When you experience darkness, it is not because you are broken. It is because you are on the path of becoming. Pain is not punishment. It is part of polarity. When your heart feels shattered, it is not because love is gone, but because its deeper expression is being formed. The farther you fall, the more force gathers behind your return. Every winter holds the seed of spring. Every night carries the promise of dawn. If you are low, it does not mean the light has left. It means your soul is being stretched to receive it more fully. Jesus did not shy away from paradox. He embraced it. He loved the sinner and the saint. He wept and he healed. He walked through the desert and the temple. He broke bread with the righteous and the rejected. He held opposites in his hands without fear. And in doing so, he revealed the secret. That wholeness is not found in choosing one side, but in holding both. So when you find yourself in extremes, in joy so wide it scares you, or in pain so deep it silences you, remember, you are not lost. You are moving through the law. You are being drawn to your opposite, not to break, but to expand, to see both, to become whole. The soul does not grow in one direction. It grows through contrast, through tension, through paradox embraced. This is not chaos. It is sacred symmetry. Polarity is the universe breathing in both directions. And when you stop resisting one side and start seeing both as sacred, you begin to live in truth. Jesus did not just understand this law. He was the meeting point of opposites, divine and human, strong and gentle, lion and lamb. And now, that same union is being offered to you, not as theory, but as a way of being. Life does not move in straight lines. It moves in waves, in tides, in breath, in seasons. Nothing stands still, and nothing lasts forever. Not joy, not pain, not success, not sorrow. This is the law of rhythm. The fifth Hermetic principle tells us that all things rise and fall, that there is a natural flow behind every beginning and every ending. Just as the ocean ebbs and then returns to the shore, so too do the patterns of our lives move in sacred cycles, not randomly, but with purpose. This law reveals something profound and often resisted. Nothing stays. The highs give way to lows, The light fades into shadow, but the shadow, too, gives way to dawn. Movement is not chaos. It is choreography. There is a cosmic timing behind every turn of your journey. And when you learn to feel the rhythm, not fight it, you begin to live with peace, even in uncertainty. You begin to trust not only when things go your way, but even when they fall apart. Because rhythm teaches that what leaves will return, and what dies will rise. Jesus understood rhythm not as theory, but as reality. He didn't move constantly, nor did he remain in stillness forever. He walked in perfect flow, withdrawing when the time was right, reappearing when the moment had ripened. He fasted and then feasted. He wept and then rejoiced. He healed the crowds, then retreated into the mountains. His life was not a constant output of energy. It was a dance, a balance, an attunement to the pulse of heaven. Even his death was rhythmic. Crucifixion, burial, resurrection. 3 days, like 3 beats of a cosmic drum. Descent, stillness, rise. He did not resist the rhythm. He surrendered to it, because he knew it was not the end. It was the motion of eternity. His parables echoed this law. To everything there is a season, a time to sow, a time to reap. He spoke of seeds that grow slowly, of fruit that appears in its time. He warned against impatience. He modeled trust in divine timing. When his mother urged him at the wedding in Cana, he replied, "My hour has not yet come." Even miracles, he showed us, have their moment. Even the divine waits. And yet, how often do we resist the rhythm? When we are in joy, we cling to it, afraid it will vanish. When we are in pain, we curse it, demanding it leave. But rhythm does not obey us. It moves by higher order. And when we learn to stop grasping, stop pushing, and begin to move with it, we discover liberation. Peace is not the absence of change. It is the surrender to sacred movement. Your heartbreak was not meaningless. Your pause was not wasted. Your delay was not punishment. All of it was rhythm, sculpting you, shaping you like the tides sculpt the shore. What feels like silence may be the breath between movements. What feels like death may be the sleep before resurrection. The universe pulses, and so do you. Jesus walked in rhythm, through suffering into glory, through silence into proclamation, through loss into eternal victory. He wept outside the tomb, then he stood and called the dead to rise. He waited in the grave, then he stepped out into light. His life was a living rhythm, and so is yours. So ask yourself, can you trust the cycle? Can you sit in the valley without panic, knowing the peak will return? Can you let the rhythm carry you instead of trying to control it? Because the moment you do, peace enters, not because the world is still, but because you are aligned with the movement behind all things. You are not forgotten. You are not failing. You are between beats. And the music is not over. There are no accidents, no coincidences, no meaningless events. Every moment you live, every outcome you face, every encounter, blessing, delay, or crisis, all of it emerges from a cause, whether seen or unseen. The 6th Hermetic principle, cause and effect, reveals the structure behind experience. It says the universe is not arbitrary, it is just, it is precise. Every cause gives birth to an effect. Every effect is rooted in a cause. Nothing stands alone. This law is relentless, but not cruel. It does not punish. It awakens. It tells you, you are not a victim of chaos. You are a participant in creation. Whether you know it or not, you are planting seeds with every thought, every word, every gesture, and in time, they return, sometimes as whispers, sometimes as storms, but they return. The universe remembers, and it responds not to what you wish for, but to what you set in motion. Jesus spoke this truth clearly and often. Whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. That is not metaphor. It is law. It means that energy released in kindness or cruelty, in love or fear, does not disappear. It echoes, it expands, and eventually it returns. Every choice is a ripple, every intention a direction. And your life, your relationships, your struggles, your breakthroughs, is the harvest of all that has been sown before. He didn't teach this to frighten. He taught it to empower. With the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. If you give grace, you receive grace. If you judge, you call judgment upon yourself. If you act with generosity, abundance flows back in ways unseen, not because God is transactional, but because the law is responsive. The field gives back what the sower plants, not immediately, not always in the form expected, but always, always. And yet, there is mystery here, because Jesus didn't only speak of sowing and reaping. He spoke of mercy, of grace, of redemption, which does not erase the law, but transcends it. One of the most profound moments of this principle unfolded on a cross. Beside him, a thief, guilty, condemned at the end of his cause. And yet, with a single moment of humility, of surrender, he hears, "Today, you will be with me in paradise." This is not contradiction. It is transformation. Cause and effect still apply, but love, divine, unmeasured, undeserved, becomes a new cause, a higher frequency, a deeper seed, capable of altering the harvest. Jesus taught that the law is real, but so is grace. And grace is not escape. It is alignment with a higher pattern that heals the consequences of the lower. So what are you sowing now? With your speech? Your silence? Your attention? Are your thoughts lifting or wounding? Are your actions rooted in fear or truth? You are not powerless. You are always creating. With every breath, every intention, every quiet decision no one else sees. And nothing is wasted. Nothing is lost. Even a cup of water, given in love, is remembered by the law. Jesus lived this truth, not to impress, but to invite. He knew that a single seed, when planted in alignment with heaven, could multiply beyond imagination. A single act of love could ripple through generations. A single choice of compassion could tilt an entire soul toward the light. You are not here to merely endure consequences. You are here to shape them, to create new causes that birth new worlds. You are not a result of the past. You are the root of the future. So choose wisely, speak with intention, forgive with courage, act with love. The law is in motion, and the harvest is already on its way. There is a dual force woven into everything that exists. It lives in the structure of galaxies and the shape of the human heart. It is the push and pull, the seed and the soil, the spark and the vessel. The seventh Hermetic principle, gender, tells us that all of creation is born from the interplay of two energies, masculine and feminine. Not male and female as biology, but as archetypes, as principles. One gives, one receives, one initiates, one nurtures. Together, they create. This is not about gender roles. It is not social. It is metaphysical. The masculine is direction, structure, focus, the arrow. The feminine is intuition, flow, openness, the space. The masculine speaks, the feminine listens. The masculine drives forward, the feminine holds and births. One is not superior, both are sacred, and the universe dances between them. Every thought you've ever had began in stillness, the feminine, and moved into action, the masculine. Every moment of inspiration, every word spoken, every act of love, all of it is born from the union of these forces inside you. Jesus embodied this truth not in theory, but in form. Though born a man into a patriarchal world, he did not mirror its imbalance. He moved through life with a harmony few have touched. He spoke with authority and wept without shame. He rebuked injustice and healed with tenderness. He stood firm before kings and bent low before children. In him, strength and softness were never at odds. He was the temple where the divine masculine and divine feminine met. Look at how he treated women, not as background characters, but as bearers of spiritual authority. Mary of Bethany, sitting at his feet, was not silenced. She was affirmed. The woman at the well, marked by shame, became the first to proclaim him to her people. And it was Mary Magdalene, not Peter, not John, who first witnessed the resurrection. This was no accident. It was restoration. Jesus was rebalancing what the world had fractured, honoring the feminine not as passive, but as powerful, prophetic, essential. This principle lives in you. No matter your body, you carry both forces. You hold the voice that speaks truth into the world, and the womb of silence that hears the divine whisper. You contain the sword of clarity and the cup of compassion. And when one side dominates, you fracture. You strive without rest. You wait without movement. But when the two are brought into union, when your inner masculine honors your inner feminine, creation happens. Wholeness begins. Something new is born. This is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming whole. About reclaiming the parts of yourself you were taught to deny. The softness that was called weakness. The strength that was called arrogance. The intuition that was dismissed. The fire that was feared. When you allow both principles to breathe through you, you step into your divine design. You become a vessel of balanced power, grounded and listening, bold and tender, clear and open. Jesus did not teach this with diagrams. He taught it with presence. He showed us what it looks like when heaven and earth meet in one life, when word and silence, force and surrender merge into living harmony. And now, the invitation is yours, not to imitate, but to awaken, to live from the center, to bring union where the world has chosen division. In a culture obsessed with dominance, this principle whispers of balance. In a world shouting for sides, it reminds us of integration. The divine is not either or, it is both. And the temple of God is not only above, it is within, where the bride and the bridegroom meet. You are not here to choose between power and peace, truth and tenderness, action and presence. You are here to become the sacred union that holds them all. You've come far, through ancient laws whispered in mystery schools, through the voice of a Nazarene who walked among outcasts and kings, through 7 principles that do not ask for worship, only recognition. These were never just teachings. They were doorways, maps, keys to the architecture beneath all things. And now, as the scroll closes and the stars fall quiet, something remains, not as information, but as remembrance. The truth has never been far. It has always been you. The 7 Hermetic principles are not distant doctrines. They are reflections of what is already inside you. They are the laws that govern galaxies, and the same ones that shape your thoughts, your choices, your becoming. They are the breath behind breath, the rhythm beneath time, the code behind creation. Mentalism taught you that all begins in mind, that your thoughts are not echoes, but engines, that you shape reality not with force, but with attention. Correspondence revealed that there is no division, only reflection, that heaven is not far. It is mirrored in the way you love, the way you see, the way you choose. Vibration showed you that you are not solid. You are energy in motion, that what you carry inward radiates outward, and the world responds in kind. Polarity invited you to stop fearing extremes, to embrace both dark and light, loss and rebirth, knowing all opposites are one truth expressed in tension. Rhythm called you to surrender, to trust the waves, the seasons, the pauses, because every fall carries the seed of rising. Cause and effect gave you power, the power to choose what kind of world you are constantly planting with thought, word, and deed. Gender reminded you that creation is born not from force alone, but from union. That wholeness comes when your strength meets your softness, your clarity meets your compassion, and through all of it, one voice has echoed. A voice not chained to religion, not buried in history, but alive in parable and miracle, in silence and resurrection. The voice of Jesus, not as figurehead, but as revealer, not as dogma, but as doorway. He lived what Hermes described. He walked as the embodiment of law, not to control the world, but to awaken it. He healed through vibration. He taught through correspondence. He moved in rhythm. He reconciled polarities. He sowed causes of love and reaped eternity. He honored the feminine as sacred. And above all, he reminded us, the kingdom is within. He didn't come to create a religion. He came to reveal a reality, a way of seeing, a way of being, a way of becoming. Not someday, not somewhere, but here, now, in you. So the question is no longer, are these principles true? The question is, will you live them? Will you walk each day as if thought shapes form? Will you treat your inner life as the seedbed of your outer world? Will you speak not just to be heard, but to resonate with love? Will you stop resisting your seasons and begin dancing with them? Will you meet your darkness with faith that light is already rising? Will you become the cause of a new world? With every action rooted in truth, will you honor the full range of your being, both the part that builds and the part that receives? Because the scroll has closed, the voice has spoken, but now you must walk, not in perfection, but in awareness, not to impress, but to align, not to follow blindly, but to remember who you are. You are not a visitor here. You are the message the universe has written in flesh. You are not separate from the laws. You are their living expression. The stars may go silent, the story may end, but the law continues in through you. And as Jesus said, let those who have ears hear.